Welcome to the Fortified Life podcast, where we learn how to develop a dependency on Jesus in the marketplace. From the boardroom to the bathroom, God is with you. Here's our host, author, speaker, teacher, encourager, stewardship coach, and my husband, the man they call Mr. Fortified, Jason Davis.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of The Fortified Life, where we talk about building a dependency on Jesus in the marketplace. I am your host, Jason Davis, aka Mr. Fortify, and it's always an honor and pleasure to be with you each and every single week. Now, I've got to tell you, for today's episode, this individual that we have on, I am very excited about. You know, there's some people that God puts in your path that are they're just meant to be. They just have this wonderful way of just meshing with you. I'm particularly excited about our guest today because she's a very good friend of my wife. So that means she may know some extra private, I'm joking, she may know some private things, but on top of that, it's the friendship. And when you hear her, how genuine she is and her sincerity, combined with her expertise, and she is a powerhouse, no doubt. You will understand what I mean. Before I bring her on, let me introduce her to you. Krista Miller. At Summit in a Box, Krista helps you replace slow growth and costly marketing strategies with a high-converting virtual summit that will multiply your revenue and lead to your biggest course, membership, or group program launch yet. Her method incorporates highly targeted positioning and feel-good, encouragement-based strategies that lead to higher than average conversion rates, true connections, and making a difference through your summit in a way that creates ongoing benefits for months after the event wraps. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Fortified Life, Krista Miller.
Hey, Jason. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, Krista. It's been a long time coming, and I am very excited. I know normally you talk to my wife, but today we are talking.
It's our turn.
It is our turn. It is. I'm sure my wife's going to listen to this and be like, oh my God, how come you didn't answer this ask her this question?
Oh, yep. We'll get some sass no matter what.
Yes, we will. I may have to hear about this. Audience, just for the record, I may have to hear about this afterwards. So, but no doubt, as we get started, you know, Krista, we'll get into the summit thing, because some people are like, I think I know what that is. Trust me, you probably don't. Krista, we'll get into that. But Krista, how did you even get into what you're doing today? We know that in 2023, you just didn't wake up out of bed, take a shower, and then just get on the computer and go, bam, here I am professionally. So tell us how you got here.
Yeah, it has been a long road. I started in 2015, so it's been a very windy 8 years of just being on the journey, being on the path that was laid out for me. I did not get myself here. That is the clearest thing in the world to me. But I started in 2015 as a website developer. I did just WordPress development, and I got into that because that's what I did full time. I have a master's degree in software engineering, so I had a job in that, but it was terrible. It was like sucking the life force out of me. It was a very toxic job. And I was desperate for something to get me out of that. But a different job wasn't going to be my solution, because I was pretty certain I was going to find that kind of culture in any tech job I was in at the time, just because of that's how the tech world at least was. I don't know if it's still like that. And the online literally, I thought of the idea of starting my own business just from scrolling Pinterest and being like, well, I see people designing pretty things on here. Like, if they can do it, why can't I? So I did. So that's where my business came from. Within 6 months, I was able to quit my full-time job, which was such a blessing, and go full-time with web development. And in 2017, I was kind of the point where the business was working okay. It was getting me what I needed. I think I was bringing in, a couple $1,000s a month at the time, but I was kind of sick of the bare minimum. It's okay, we need a little more breathing room, need more space. What can I do to get the next level of income and visibility and more consistent clients and all those things? And a virtual summit kept coming to mind as the answer. 'Cause, at the time, a lot of the big influencers and everything were hosting these semi-cool, semi-gross and slimy summits. But I could see that it worked, I could see all the momentum and people excited. And this is how, like, it just seemed like everyone who did it was so cool and such a big deal. And that's what I wanted. Not necessarily to that level, but I wanted more. I wanted people to know who I was, basically. And I had pushed it off just because of the parts of the strategy that didn't feel good to me. Like, I hated signing up for someone's event and just being pitched to the whole time and just being like, ugh, this is just like the most pro marketery thing I've ever seen. Marketery. I think I just made up a word. But, I was literally driving in the car one day and it just came to me like, you can do this your way. And at the time, I was not as in tune with God's voice as I am now. 100% looking back. That was not my voice telling me that. I just didn't know it then, but that's all it took. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do it my way. I can do this in a way that feels good. And that's what I did. And that first summit was everything I wanted and so much more. It made triple the amount of money I was used to making in a month, tripled my email list, booked out my services for 6 months, and like truly changed my life, as dramatic as that is. And I had no plans to go ahead and teach summits. Like, I literally used to hide under the table at family get-togethers when I was little. Like, me teaching people how to host big events, no thanks. That's not me. But God had a different plan. And throughout the next few months, I was just constantly getting emails and messages on different social media platforms and Voxer from people being like, hey, can you teach me how to do it? Can you teach me how to do that? And I was like, no, that was a lot of work. Go away. And the thing that did me in was, in one day, several months later, I had an email from one person, a Facebook message from a different person, and a Voxer message from my coach, all saying, you should do this. And my coach was like, I had a dream last night that you built a virtual summit empire. And like, I think you'd be really incredible at this. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Wow.
So I did it. I launched a minimum viable product in September 2018, and people liked it. I was not used to people buying the things that I made. I was like, what is this? And here we are. Our offers have been evolving. We've been growing ever since. And oh man, it has been a wild ride, but so fun.
My goodness, Krista, what an origin story. I feel like it's just something out of a comic book. And here stands forth Krista Miller.
I love it.
I love that. Krista, there were so many things in your background and story. You talked about being in a toxic environment and just that, something's got to change. Krista, if you could go back for a second, I'm sure you don't want to reminisce too far, but when you have that type of shift in your mindset, because there's a lot of, business owners out there and they go through similar turning points. What really helped you in that process where you're coming out of toxicity and you're looking for what's next? What is some wisdom you can share when someone's in the midst of that?
Yeah, I think for me, it was just knowing what I needed and being really realistic about that. Like, I knew I needed to get out of that position as quickly as possible. That was the priority. But along with that, I knew I needed to make $1,500 a month on my own. My husband's job was able to cover the rest. So having those two things side by side, those are the things I need to balance. That gave me, I knew exactly what I needed to push through. And I wasn't picky about the projects I was taking on or what I was offering or anything like that at the time. I was like, the goal right now is to get out of that job and make $1,500 a month. However I have to do that, that's cool. I'm not going to be picky. I can worry about being picky later. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, knowing what I was working towards and why, and just letting whatever happened happen.
That's good. You hit something really, really big, Krista. You said, wasn't worried about being picky. And my goodness, if there's anything that I've seen and I've certainly experienced myself, this thing about perfectionism. And what do you think causes us, especially in the business world, Krista, to just, I've got to get this right? Like, what do you think that stems from? I
think it stems from seeing the people who are already there doing things the right way and thinking that that's where they started and holding ourselves to that standard. And I'm seeing that right now. My sister-in-law is working on starting a business, and she's holding herself to my standard. She is just starting. She's just figuring out what she's offering, just figuring out her messaging. And she'll come and say, like, kind of be talking down on herself. And I'm like, I started 8 years ago. I have been through all of that. I wasn't just successful. It was hard for a really long time. I launched a lot of things that were total flops, sold nothing. And it was all of that taught me what I needed to know to get me here. Like, don't hold yourself to my standard. And I think that's just natural for us to do that. We don't see the messy parts of other people's businesses. We think that they were just, boom, successful, and that we're supposed to be that too. And that's just not how it works. We have a lot to learn at every part of the process.
That's good comparison. It just rears its ugly, ugly head. Krista, we're going to time travel again a little bit in the IT space, because I know a little bit of that myself. But you mentioned a word that, goodness, whether you're in product development or software development, there's a 3-letter acronym you mentioned, MVP, minimum viable product. Tell us what that is and the importance it played in you getting started.
Yeah. So minimum viable product, I was like, people are telling me they want me to teach them how to host a summit. I'm not going to do that for free because it was a lot of work. I need them to give me money for something. What is the easiest thing that's going to be high value to them that I can just get out the door as quickly as possible? And for me, that was my project plan. So I took the entire project plan I had built for my first summit, made it a whole lot prettier than it was for myself, grouped tasks together nicely, added descriptions for people, packaged it up, sold literally a CSV of my project plan for $200. It's like, tell me if you like it. And they did. So that was proof to me. If I can put together this really simple thing, it probably took me a day or two. It took me time to put up my website and things like that. But even that, I did a homepage and an about page plus the sales page for this. And that's it. Like, I didn't go all out with all of these different things. Like, what is the quickest and easiest way I can see if people are really interested in this? So for me, it was a simple website and a really simple offer I could put together to see if they'd put their money where their mouth was.
Got it. I just think that lesson in business is so critical, Krista. Like you said, what can I provide that meets a need and get to market quickly and start getting the key F word, feedback, just feedback. When you talk about establishing a feedback loop with your customer, Krista, what have you found that's been effective in being able to build your platform now?
Yeah, so I started with always asking for feedback and showing them how much I valued it and the fact that I put it into practice. I think if I was asking for feedback and not doing anything with it, I think it would have kind of dwindled as people were like, why am I doing this? But from the very beginning, people could see, if I tell her I want this, she's going to make it. So I started with that minimum viable product, and then I surveyed them, like, what templates would be the most helpful? Or I'd ask on social media, what do you want? What would be the most helpful for you in hosting a summit? And I built a membership based on their recommendations. I'd get a recommendation, I'd put it in a spreadsheet, and every month I released 3 new resources from things people directly requested of me. And every month I raised the price in that membership. And that was my way to build what they wanted and be getting paid. And be like, okay, people are still willing to pay this much. But yeah, I've always, like, this, our entire product, our entire business was built on feedback and what was going to be the most helpful. And I started it that way as well. And I think that's a very big part of why we're as successful as we are. Is we know we made something people wanted. I didn't guess at any step of the way except that first product. And even that wasn't really a guess. People were telling me they wanted it. I just didn't believe them yet, So I think that's a big thing.
Folks, I bet you didn't know you were going to MBA class today, because Krista is literally, she talked about whether you're starting out or even mid-cycle in a business, she's saying some key principles. The quicker you incorporate the feedback, well, number one, having a feedback mechanism, taking that feedback, iterating on your current product and getting it back out there so you can get to the money. And see, I'm telling you, I told you guys she was going to bring the wisdom, bring the gold today. Krista, this reminds me. So we've built this up. It's in your bio. Now we've come and arrived at the time, Krista. What actually is a summit? Because we have conferences, we have seminars, we have keynotes. There's all these things, whether it's in the physical space with people in person and in the digital space. So, Krista, as the expert, please tell us, what is a summit and what makes it different from some of the other communication platforms for audiences out there?
Yes, I will do my best. So the way I define it, a virtual summit is an online event. So we're specifically talking about online here, where, usually one person hosts this event based around a specific topic, a specific goal their audience has, a transformation they need, could even be a fun hobby, but something specific around that thing. And they bring in other experts to come in and teach different sessions based on that. So some people, if you're not familiar with like online events as much, you can kind of even think of it as like an in-person conference. You go to the conference, there's all kinds of different talks going on in different days. You pick and choose which ones you want to go to, who you want to learn from, what you want to learn about. Same thing, just in the online format. So one person hosting, a group of speakers. Usually I like to say the sweet spot is between 15 and 25 speakers, but I've seen anywhere from 5 to over 100 speakers for summits. Typically, well, I shouldn't say typically, the way we teach is free to attend. So people can sign up to this event for free and watch these presentations for free for a limited time. So 24, 48 hours, they have free reign to see whatever they want. And then after that, they can upgrade if they want ongoing access, and usually some different bonuses are built in, but that's the way, the first way the host can make money through the event. So basically the attendees are coming to learn a lot of really targeted information really quickly, which is just wonderful for the host as far as list building goes, like building up their audience, showing this audience how much value they can provide, and like building a lot of know, like, and trust really, really quickly. And then, having a great opportunity to make money as well. But I feel like that's the simple description.
I love it. Krista, you started to answer this because I'm sure people listening, they're like, okay, Krista, you're saying this virtual summit thing, and can it really do that for me? Can it really do all of these things? What would you say to the business owner that's on the fence, Krista? Maybe they're looking at, well, Krista, I have a product or a service-based business, and I don't see how a summit could do that. What would you say to that person who is trying to just connect the dots to how a summit could help them in their specific case?
Mm-hmm. Well, first, I would encourage them to stop doubting themselves, number one. But the strategy has been proven. I have not come across someone with a business model that it doesn't work for. You just need to know, the keys to making it work and what the goals of it are. You don't have to have a big audience to host a really awesome event. The event brings the audience. That's just how it works. That's how it works to have speakers who are excited to be there and want to share about things. But regardless of what kind of business you run, you're solving a problem for people, making something easier, making their life more enjoyable or easier in some way. So if you host a big event based around that topic, that theme, and it's free, people are going to be interested in that if the messaging is spot on and everything like that. And that's why we have it free. So there's no barrier to someone who is interested in what you do to sign up. And it is so powerful. We've seen people with 0 on their email list. I would say the most common with someone starting from 0 is between 500 and 1,000 people signed up. But we've had students in our program starting from 0 get up to 10,000 people signed up for a summit with nothing. Like they were starting their business through the summit, which I don't necessarily recommend that. Like I want to make sure your messaging is proven, but the strategy works. It is so powerful. And then once you have all those leads, that does so, of course, there's the immediate benefit of being able to sell them on that All Access Pass I mentioned through the summit. And if you have any current offers, selling them on those things. But now you have those 500, 1,000, 10,000 people in your space on your email list to continue moving forward with you as you're figuring out your offers and products and to give you that feedback on things that you need. And it just like propels your business forward so much faster than anything else I have ever found in the online business space.
So good. So, Krista, are you telling us in 2023 that a business owner who has a certain business model, they can take something like a virtual summit, incorporate it into their process, and maybe even do this, a couple of times a year?
Yeah. I mean, we have clients who are launching summits every quarter. Like their business is built on virtual summits. For me, I don't want to do, that's a lot. That's a lot for me. I don't like speaker outreach that much. Every 6 months is about my max, but it is such a powerful thing to incorporate into your business as an ongoing part of the strategy, because it gives you that influx of leads. Whenever you host this event, you're going to get that influx. And then everything else you do is more effective as well. There are so many other strategies in the online business space, challenges, webinars, workshops, all of these other things. Those are so much more effective when you have thousands of extra leads to throw at them, and that's what a summit does. A summit will convert just like those other things do, but it also brings the leads. Those other strategies we're used to aren't lead generation strategies as much as some people try to kind of position them that way. They're just not. And we hosted a challenge. Actually, last week we hosted a challenge. Our email list grew by 50. We hosted a paid conference last August. Our list grew, I think, by 70. We hosted a summit in December. It grew by 1,000. That's what I want. That's the kind of list growth I want. I'm not looking for 50 people at a time. I'll take it. But when I'm doing something specifically for list growth that I can then use to fuel the rest of my business for the year, for the next 6 months, the 1,000 is what I'm looking for, So yeah, it's so powerful to use as an ongoing part of your strategy. And the good news is it also gets easier every time. That first one is a lot of work to set everything up, figure out your systems and your messaging and all of the things. But the next time it's rinse and repeat, duplicate the page, update the dates, it gets so much easier after that. So it only makes sense to do it again and look at what didn't go well last time, what did, what can I leverage, what do I want to try that's new, and just make your results bigger and better every time as well.
I love it, Krista. I love it. Yeah, Krista, you made me think about something else. I know you teach certain things inside your community. So folks, you'll have to come alongside Krista and join her community. But what would you say are just some guiding principles for getting started and putting on a successful summit, Krista? Because we know the rest, they'll have to come aboard and join you.
Yeah. So, I mean, first, as much as I don't like to slow down and set goals, look at what do you want to get out of it, both for yourself, but also for everybody else involved. But I'll start with the part for yourself. Are you looking for email list growth? Are you looking for immediate revenue? Are you looking for long-term revenue? Some people, especially if they're newer in business, are I just need the leads. I just need the list growth. I need something that will connect me with other people in the industry, aka the speakers. I don't care about the revenue. That's a bonus for me. But look at what do you want to get out of it? But then kind of set that aside and focus on the other people, because when you give other people a good experience, you help them with the transformation they need, you serve your speakers well, that will all come back to you. So once I am okay, here's what I need to get out of it, kind of think strategically about that, I'm focused on other people. How can I give my attendees a wonderful experience? Yes, I need to sell my thing, but not at the expense of how much they love this event and how much it helps them. I need my speakers to promote, but I'm not going to sit and badger them and be a pain about it and put more pressure on them than should be. It's my event. It's my responsibility to make it successful. How can I make it an awesome experience for speakers and make sure they get a ton out of it as well? Think about those things. It's very natural to go into something like this just thinking about your own goals. Think about other people's goals as well. And then the next step after that is the positioning. The way you position a summit is what will decide if it's successful or not. And I would say a couple years ago, back when I first hosted my first summit in 2018, you could get away with a lot more. A business to help online business owners grow their business, that worked back then. That was good. But now there are so many summits, you have to be really specific if you want it to work. But the good news is when you get more specific, you can help people more. So it can make it harder in the beginning to figure out what your unique positioning is going to be. But then you're able to help people more. Your conversion rates are higher. It's easier to do things like write copy, figure out what kinds of presentations and speakers you want and all of that good stuff. So figuring out who your summit's going to be for and what it's going to be about, what it's going to help them with. are the next big things. And we have like a free training series, free podcast episodes, everything that goes into that a little bit more. But I would say like those two things are the first pieces I want people to think about before they just try to dive right in and start like planning this big summit before they know the foundations and why they're doing it.
So good. Krista, this has been a powerful conversation. As we get ready to bring it to a close, there was something you said at the beginning of the conversation, and you said a big pivotal piece of the journey, and it's very evident what God has done in your life and all the success that you've had. But when you said when you really hear clearly from him, what role has that played in what you do day to day?
My goodness, everything. It has literally been, I would say, within the last maybe 3 months that I finally figured out how I hear from God. And it's like, I don't know, I get these really strong like feelings that yes, this is right. No, this is not. And like, that's what it is. I always just thought this is how my brain works. Like, I just know. No, I don't know anything. I did not get here because of like just having the right gut feelings about everything for years. So I don't know. Everything I do is, I'm very confident, comes from God. Every idea I have that works, like I can feel it in my soul when something's going to work. Like, this is a good idea. Let's do that. And sometimes it gets me in trouble and we have like an overloaded schedule with way too much stuff. But it's also so cool now that I know what that is. And I'm working at getting better at listening to it and giving God credit where it's due, and not just being like, okay, yep, here's this idea, go for it. Like, oh, okay, why are we doing that? Why is this a good idea? And just like, I don't know, sitting with things a little bit more. And yeah, like I said, giving more credit where it's due, because it's wild to me how the ideas just, there they are. And I know instantly this is a good idea. Oh, this doesn't feel good. And if I try to move forward with something that didn't have that initial, yes, this is a good idea, I feel it the entire time. It feels awful the whole time. And then it doesn't work. So like I've stopped forcing myself to like continue with things that feel that way. But yeah, it's been really cool.
Supernatural downloads.
Yes,
Doing
exactly.
business God's way. Krista, what are you most excited about in 2023?
Yeah, I think putting our own spin on all of the strategies we've been incorporating for the last 3 years. So one of our core programs, Summit in a Box, originally launched in 2020. And the way I launched, the way I released it, the way I put our funnel together, everything was very heavily based on someone else's strategy. I didn't know what I was doing. I was a developer. I didn't know how to launch a product. And now I've been looking at like pausing long enough to look at everything and be like, this feels terrible. Like someone signs up for this webinar and it's like, boom, pitch. The freebies I give out, like I know they've helped thousands of people, but I look at them and I'm like, that's not how we do things here. I don't like give you a PDF and promise you that it's just the most valuable thing you're ever going to come across. Like, no, if I'm going to teach you something good, you're going to need to like join me in this 10-part training series. I'm going to give you prizes for doing it. Like, you know, what we do here is an experience. Our programs are an experience. And now this year we are focusing on spreading that experience beyond just our paid programs, our freebies, our podcasts. You know, the second someone comes in contact with us, we want them to feel that. We want them to know we care. We're not just going to promise results from this quick 3-step PDF situation. We're reworking all of our funnels as well to just feel good, show people that we value them as people, and not just, I don't know, follow someone else's strategy blindly. So that's what we've been working on so far this year. That's what we're going to keep working on. And honestly, the changes we've already made just feel so good. And it makes me show up differently and speak about things differently. And I feel more confident telling people like, sign up for this thing. It's amazing, because now it is, you know? So I'm really excited to keep moving forward with that this year.
So good. So good, Krista. I'm excited about that, and I'm not even involved in the process. So folks, I told you she just has that effect on people. Well, Krista, you've given so much wisdom, so many gems. What's the best way for listeners to connect with you and follow what you're doing?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at Summit in a Box. That's probably the best way. Otherwise, we're over at summitinabox.co.
Folks, we'll have all of this on the show notes as well on fortifiedlifepodcast.com. So don't you worry. You will be able to find Krista Miller. Well, Krista, right. I just wanted to say that I have had so much fun. I know my wife has other fun when you guys talk offline, but I personally have had a lot of fun talking to you in this conversation, and I look forward to future ones.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for having me.
For sure. Well, folks, that's all we have time for here on the Fortified Life podcast. You know how we leave things. From the boardroom to the bathroom, God is with you. Don't compartmentalize your faith in the marketplace. We'll see you next time on the Fortified Life podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Fortified Life podcast. You can catch us live on Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time and on demand. Check out fortifiedlifepodcast.com for more details. To learn how to live out your faith in the marketplace, grab a copy of Jason Davis's book, Fortified, Being Rooted in God's Plan for Work and Business. Available on Amazon.
You're listening to Yours Live Worldwide Podcast.